Hello there and welcome to Inkquiring Minds. My name is Doug and I'm back with another fountain pen review. The review of this fountain pen has been delayed for several weeks. Tom Oddo of Goldspot Pens sent me this Esterbrook Estie Back to the Lands button filler for review. When I first started using it, the pen would spit ink all over the page. I couldn't figure out why. I suspected that there might be an air leak. So I wrote to Tom about the problem and he connected me with Jake Nias of Esterbrook Pens. I sent the pen to Jake and he fixed it up and sent it back to me. Thanks a bunch, both Tom and Jake. Now let's look at this pen right now. One of my viewers asked if I was interested in reviewing a specific pen. It was the Esterbrook Estie Back to the Lands. So I reached out to Tom Oddo of Goldspot Pens and asked him whether he had one. And indeed he did. Thank you, Tom. Let's open this up. And we have a brochure from Goldspot Pens. And here's the package. Put the brochure aside. And here's the box. Esterbrook, USA. Back to the land. We're proud to introduce you to the new fountain pen world off. Off? Write your life with us. Write your life with us. Hopefully you'll spell check when you write your life with us, or you'll be writing your life. Back to the land. We are excited to offer these pens, each with its own story to tell, so you can write your adventure chapters with a tool that embodies the spirit of an unforgettable era. I think if you remember the 70s, you really weren't there. Funky Lake, I think that's the one I've got here. Funky Lake, there's incredible rock, brown body. Let's see this one. It says Funky Lake, capturing the spirit of the 70s with a blue body that evokes the serenity of lakes, places of refuge from the hectic and stressful urban life, but also community spaces to come together and spend time in connection with nature. Well, I don't know. That wasn't my hippie experience. It wasn't getting back to nature, but anyway. Incredible rock, evoking the spirit of the 70s with a brown body inspired by the stability of the earth and the hardness of rocks, symbolizing solidarity and resistance in human relationships. Resistance? Interesting. And elements capable of inspiring a deep connection with nature and spirituality. And the quirky leaf. We all remember this as avocado, I think, in the day. Those of you that had avocado fridges in 1970 will remember this color. Our quirky leaf. What are they talking about, quirky leaf? Wonder what plant is quirky.
I smell something burning! Oh, snap! It's me! Oh, where's that? Don't arrest me yet! I'm getting high as a
Celebrates the diversity and vitality of nature. The vibrant green of this pen represents the flourishing flora that symbolize the desire for rebirth and connection with the natural environment. With Quirky Leaf, we explore the playful side of nature and authenticity, celebrating beauty in its most extravagant forms.
This is good shit.
Celebrating the culture with Esterbrook fountain pens. Our latest collection is a celebration of the culture of the 70s, paying homage to the concept of back to the land. This intriguing series consists of 3 pens, each embodying a unique character inspired by the roots of nature and the free expression of that era. Let's explore the collection. Well, that's a lot of text, isn't it? My goodness. And what does it say? I got a stub, push piston, Funky Lake. Is that what I got? Yep, Funky Lake, gold trim fountain pen. And there we go. It has the pull tab on it, and there's the pen right away. Well, look at this. Isn't this nice? Let's move in a little closer so we can see this. We have the pen, and it's a nicer blue than it looks like in the photographs. We've got a ruler in centimeters and inches, and we've got writing fuel, Funky Lake Esterbrook. I think this is ink in this little, what feels like leather, but it's some kind of paper, satchel. And if you get that out of there, you're a better man than I am, Gungadin. Wow. There we go. That's interesting. So this is the Funky Lake color to go with that pen. Nice. We will try that color. Let's lift this out of here and see it has a really nice leather. Yeah, I think that's real leather. Pen hold with a magnetic clasp. Ah, this is a magnetic clasp. Take the pen out and find out. No, we're going to take it out through this way. There we go. So that's a really nice little pen holder that can clip on the side of your journal or a page or a binder, or, probably not something too thick, but that's a pretty strong magnet right there. And we have a little card from Esterbrook that says, Esterbrook, scan to activate your pen. Well, I think you have to fill it too. It's one of the nice things about fountain pens. You don't need an app for them to work, usually. Let's take a look at this pen. Well, it's really nice, but this is a nicer acrylic or plastic than I had expected from the photographs. It looked rather dull in the photos, but this is very vibrant and a lovely kind of a shade. It's slightly translucent. There's an ink window there, and I asked for a 1.1 stub Esterbrook. Looks like a plastic feed. It's got that Esterbrook capping system. I can feel that small spring in there. And it's nicer than previous ones. Previous ones you had to sort of push on them to engage the threads, but this is engaging the threads right away. So this is a Vacuumatic basically, but a modern Vacuumatic. I got this from Goldspot, and I was very interested in finding out how this pump filler works. And so I thought I'd disassemble it and find out, because inquiring minds want to know. And so I've lined up two other pens. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is just not the same. Two of them are the same and one of them is different. This is the original. This is a Parker Vacuumatic from 1946, and it has the same pump as the Esterbrook. And the way this pen works is that it's a Vacuumatic. And here I have a diagram of how a Vacuumatic works. This is the original design invented by Parker in the early 1930s. There is a plunger that moves a rod, and attached to the end of the rod is a latex diaphragm that moves up and down inside the barrel of the pen, much like your diaphragm in your chest moves up and down and pumps air in and out of your lungs. In this case, it's creating pressure, and then when it's released, it creates a negative pressure and it draws things up. Well, when your nib here is in the ink, the feed draws ink with that negative pressure up through the breather tube and it spills over. The more you pump it, the more ink burps up into the inside of the barrel of the pen until it gets to the top of the breather hole when there's no more differential pressure. That's how a Vacuumatic plunger pump filler works. Two modern pen companies have changed the latex diaphragm into a piston. So a piston's going up inside there. Plastic piston with silicone O-rings on it is moving up and down inside that barrel instead of the latex diaphragm. The first one I knew of was this Wingsung 601. This is my flighter model, and it is completely stainless steel, and it has a pump on the end of it that moves a piston up and down inside. And this new Esterbrook, Back to the Lands, also has this same pump that moves a piston on the inside. Let's get Doug's X-ray light out here, and you can see how that piston is moving up and down inside that barrel. And there is a breather tube in there. Well, you can see it through that ink window right in there. And let's take the pen apart. We unscrew the nib from the section, and you see there's that soft plastic breather tube that extends into the barrel. So this works exactly the same way. The piston goes up and down inside and sucks up ink through that breather tube until it fills the barrel chamber. But I wanted to get that mechanism out of there to inspect it and see how it works, how it's designed, and also you'll want to silicone grease that piston at some point in the life of this pen. Esterbrook has provided those small flats, you see them right there, underneath those threads. That's for a wrench to go in there, but they don't provide you with that wrench. So I measured it with my calipers and discovered it's 4.9 millimeters. So I need a 4.9 or a 5 millimeter box wrench to get inside there. But I need a box wrench that's going to fit under those threads. And that distance is like 2.2 millimeters. So I went out and got a mini set of box wrenches. And there was one that was 5 millimeters, but it was too thick. So I ground it down with my Dremel tool so that it would fit. And now it fits on there. And I can take this mechanism out because it's threaded. And it's a reverse thread. So I'm holding the wrench and I'm turning the mechanism counterclockwise. And out comes the pump. Now this little gold ring detaches, so make sure that you don't lose that piece. But there's the pump mechanism right there. And it's very similar to the one that Wingsung made in the 601. And it's also very similar to the one you find inside the original Vacuumatic from the 1930s and 40s. Here's one from a Parker Vacuumatic. It has the same mechanism, only attached to this ebonite cup. That's where the latex diaphragm attaches in and out of the barrel like that. But how different is it from the Wingsung? Well, the first thing about the Wingsung 601 is that they provide you with a tool to get it off. So you don't have to go buy a set of box wrenches and grind them down to fit. You listening, Esterbrook? You put this little plastic tool that's worth a couple of bucks on the end of that piston and you give it a turn, many turns, and you pull the piston out. Here's the piston from the Wingsung, and here's the piston from the Esterbrook. And they don't differ that much at all. In fact, the pistons themselves are interchangeable. This is a small silicone rubber piece that comes right off. And here's the one from the Wingsung, comes right off, and we can actually swap them if we wanted to. But I have a better source for those pistons. You get yourself a parts bag from Pen BBS. These are not always available on the Pen BBS Etsy store. Usually out of stock because people snap them up. It has all kinds of converters and feeds and O-rings and pistons inside. I think I paid $8 for this. You have to pay more for them if you find them on eBay or on AliExpress. Look for Pen BBS parts bag and you can get one of these really great supplies. And here is one of the silicone rubber pistons from that parts bag, and I'm going to put it on the Esterbrook, and there it goes, and it works. So just for you to know, if you want to maintain your Esterbrook, you can get parts for them. And before you put this back in again, you want to put some silicone grease on that piston. I'm just going to dip the piston in a little bit of silicone grease and wipe it around so it gets on both of those rings. In fact, while I'm at it, I want to maintain my Wingsung as well because it's needed a cleaning. I've been using it most every day since I bought it. There we go. So we put the Wingsung back in, put the tool on it, and screw the piston back down and make it hand tight and pull the tool off. $2. And then the blind cap. Now with the Esterbrook, make sure you get that ring on there first. I did have a difficult time because I think they used a little bit of glue on those threads to keep you from taking it apart because it took a little bit of work to get it to budge, and I felt it slip a little bit. That plastic is very soft and that metal is very hard. So I put the ring back on, put the piston in the back of the pen, and we're going to turn the barrel clockwise, put our box wrench back on, and make it hand tight. Just hand tight. You don't want to tighten it any more than that. Those threads and metal will start to warp if you over tighten that. So there, my pen is maintained. I can put my nib back in the section and screw the nib back down. Hand tight again. And I'm ready to fill this pen. So there we go. Things old are new again. But they had to be done by the Chinese first, I think. Well, I didn't think I would like this pen because I don't like the colors from the 70s. But I'm finding myself liking this pen a lot already, and I haven't written with it. The Esterbrook Estie Back to the Land. I'll show the parts and features of this pen, some size comparisons and measurements, and then provide a writing sample. Then I'll talk about what I like and what I don't like so much about this fountain pen. Overall, the Estie is a big pen, measuring 6 inches in length. Here it is next to a Pilot Metropolitan for scale. The Estie is a popular model by Esterbrook, available in a wide range of finishes and considered their flagship model. The Back to the Lands is a series of 3 distinct finishes: Funky Lake, this teal blue, Incredible Rock, which is a red, and Quirky Leaf, which is like an olive green. These standard size Esties come with an array of 12 different nib sizes and types: EF, F, M, B, double B, 1.1 stub, extra fine flex, techno, scribe, needlepoint, and mini stub. The techno is Esterbrook's interpretation of the Sailor Zoom nib, while the scribe nib is an architect. The needlepoint and mini stub nibs are self-explanatory. The Back to the Land series Estie is available in either a cartridge converter or button filler models. This is the button filler version. Esterbrook's button filler is a modern reimagining of the classic vacuumatic filling system from the 1930s and 40s by Parker. The key differences lie in Esterbrook's use of a silicone piston instead of a latex diaphragm, which is a system also employed by Edison and Wingsung. The cap features a cigar-shaped top, followed by a long, elegantly shaped, springy clip that extends from the cap and is nicely usable. The injection molded plastic teal cap curves up to a gold metal ring and a plastic tan brown cap lip that serves as the cap thread sleeve on the inside. The Esterbrook cap is hot stamped with the brand name in paint filled gold. There's a slight step down to the barrel, which begins with another gold colored ring, and the plastic body tapers down to another gold colored ring, which separates the barrel from the blind cap and ends in the rounded cigar shape and houses the gold-colored metal pump. The cap unscrews with about a half turn to reveal an ink window with another gold ring on the top, the cap threads, and the smooth tapering section with a small flare towards the number 6 size Jovo steel 1.1 stub nib and black plastic feed. The nib and feed unit is unscrewable for replacement or for maintenance. Let's get a closer look at this nib. It is a Jovo German number 6 size steel nib with the Esterbrook logo and established 1858 laser etched into the top, and the 1.1 is stamped into the side. The inside of the cap reveals Esterbrook's spring capping mechanism to seal the nib from drying out. And this one is an improvement on previous Esties that I've experienced. In previous ones, it was a little bit of a push to get it in there before the cap threads would engage. This one you can hardly feel it, but that cap engages on the inside and seals that nib. And the system works very nicely. This pen never dries out. The cap posts deeply and securely, but you have to give it an extra little push. If you just put it on the outside, it tends to fall off. But if you give it an extra push, it goes on very securely and doesn't fall off. It makes the pen rather long in the hand, but that cap doesn't weigh anything, so it doesn't severely backweight the pen. Unposted, the pen is very comfortable and well balanced in the hand. The Esterbrook Estie Back to the Land as a cartridge converter lists for $175, and the button filler version lists for $229.50 US on the Goldspot website, and you'll pay about $50 extra for the Architect nib. Now let's look at some size comparisons. And here's the Esterbrook Estie Back to the Lands button filler with some of my favorite cigar-shaped pens. Here it is with a Pen BBS 308 in Galaxy, a Platinum President, an Asvine J16 piston filler, and an Asvine V126 vacuum filler. And just for fun, here it is with the 1944 Parker Vacuumatic in Gold and Pearl that I just restored yesterday. You'll see this restoration tomorrow morning. Now let's look at them posted. They're all number 6 size steel nibs with the exception of the Platinum, which is an 18 karat gold nib, and the Parker, which is a 14 karat gold nib. Now let's look at them unposted. And here they are unposted. You can see that the Estie is the thickest and longest of them all. Now let's look at some measurements, and I'll be back with a writing sample. And we're back with the writing portion of the review. This is 90 GSM Clairefontaine paper, and this is the Esterbrook Estie Back to the Land. And it has a number 6 size JoWo steel 1.1 stub nib. Let's check the wetness. Well, this is very wet. This nib is nicely juicy and makes really cool line variation with no effort at all. The nib is smooth with hardly any feedback and a lot of fun to write with. And the ink today is Waterman's Serenity Blue. It's my go-to ink when I'm using vintage pens, or in this case, when I'm using pens that might be suspect as to their ink flow. I want to take the ink out of the equation if there's any issues with this pen, and so I filled it with Waterman's. And when it came back to me from Jake, it was already about half full of Waterman's anyway. As to line variation, well, you're not going to put any pressure on this nib. It just gives you line variation naturally because of the stub nature of the nib. And that's what stubs are for. Effortless line variation with no added skill or pressure needed. That's right up my street. This nib does make a 0.3 horizontal line and a 1.0 vertical line in millimeters. And of course your variation depends on your orientation of the nib to the page. And let's do a quote. And for some reverse writing, well, it doesn't really do it, but you wouldn't expect to anyway with a stub. And for some quick writing, that feed is keeping up with that very, very thirsty nib very nicely indeed. So what do I like and what do I not like about this fountain pen? I'm pleasantly surprised to say that I like everything about it, especially the teal color with the tan stripe. I initially thought I'd dislike the 1970s color schemes, but I'm glad I gave this pen a chance. Harvest Gold, Buffalo, Avocado, Warm Sand, and Tomato are all great colors on their own, but when combined in pinstripes on a couch, they can be a bit overwhelming. I know, I grew up with one. Now let's talk about the leaking issue. I was worried that the filling system was flawed, but Jake at Esterbrook explained that it was actually the nib collar that was causing the problem. He replaced the nib collar and the pen works flawlessly now. Whenever you have blobbing or your pen leaks uncontrollably, suspect an air leak somewhere. Overall, I had a great experience with both Goldspot pens and Esterbrook. The service and communication were excellent. I trust that you'll receive the same courteous service from both the retailer and the manufacturer. Esterbrook pens are designed in the United States but are manufactured in Taiwan. The nibs are JoWo from Germany, and this one wrote perfectly out of the box. The only issue I had with this pen, other than the leaking issue, was the difficulty in removing the button filler mechanism for maintenance. I found a way to do it, but I had to custom grind an open box wrench to access it. I think it would be helpful if Esterbrook provided a wrench with their button fillers. These button fillers require regular maintenance with silicone grease and periodic cleaning, just like piston fillers. TWSBI does it, and I believe Esterbrook should follow suit. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And you can join as a member of my channel for only 99 cents a month, and I guarantee I'll answer your comments in the comment section, and you'll get cool emojis, badges, sneak peek unboxing videos, as well as instant access to my videos the moment I post them. And that just leaves it for me to say, thank you. Watching, and that's all she wrote.
I made this.